In today's video, I'm going to cover one of my favorite accessories that I have added to my table saw. Hey everybody, welcome back. Jason with Woodworking. If you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. What you'll find here is bi-weekly videos on tips and tricks and product overviews and reviews, all in an effort to make you a better woodworker. The accessory that I'm talking about is the clear-cut table saw stock guides from a company named JessEm. And as usual, I will leave affiliate links down below to anything I talk about in this video, should you want to go find more information about them or purchase it. I will cover one thing before we get started, and that's I'm not going to tell you the compatibility with every table saw or every table saw fence because I don't know that. However, you can go to the JessEm website, which I'll leave a link down below, and you can go on there and you can see the compatibility and what table saws it works on. In addition, I know that some people have actually made jigs that will house these on different fences, and I will kind of talk about that a little bit. But again, if you want to find out more information about that, please just go to their website. Jumping right into it, I have the SawStop 3 horsepower table saw. And this table saw has the T-Glide fence system on it. And as you can see, obviously, these are compatible with my fence. What it consists of is a rail system, which goes into the top of the fence itself. And then you have these two arms that come down. And I'll talk more about that and exactly what they're for and how you adjust them here momentarily. They can be stored in the down position, or they can be stored up out of the way, like this. For example, if you're cutting really thin stock and maybe these are not going to be effective, it's very simple. You just slide them over. I've got you zoomed in right now on one of the actual pieces that attaches to the rail itself. There are a few knobs to concern yourself with that are all related to the operation of the device itself and or taking off these pieces. And the way you take this off of the actual rail is you loosen this back screw and you loosen the front screw. And then these simply slide back and forth like this. And so if I wanted to take it off for any reason, let's say I was using a jig and I had the jig over the top of my fence, I could remove these and then it would be no issue. As you can see here, we have the rail system itself. It was a very, very easy application. All I did is took some double-sided tape on each end, mounted it where I wanted to mount it, and then it has two screws here, 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 and here, and those screws do go into the actual fence itself. I do want to point something out. I've gotten a lot of comments from people that have been really hesitant to buy this item for their table saw because they don't like the idea of screwing into their fence. What I will tell you, if you do a quick YouTube search, you'll actually find a couple of videos of some really cool removable ways to mount these things onto the table saw without actually drilling the holes in it. Just something to think about if you might be interested in purchasing these. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about what these things are actually for. So the whole purpose of these table saw stock guides is that it's basically to give you an extra set of hands almost at the table saw. And I'll explain why. So if you look here, you can see that this wheel is turned inward this way. You have the same effect with the one that's in the rear. So the idea behind this is that one of these will be before the blade, like you see here, and the other one will be beyond the blade. Now, the benefit to this is an extreme example, but you can see right here, there is a gap between the wood and the fence. So what these were designed to do, because they have the wheels that are always angled inward slightly, it's to draw that board into the actual fence itself. So it's never having that deflection off the fence. It's constantly putting pressure and pulling that board in, ensuring that it stays true to your table saw fence. Before I show you a more close-up example in real time of what I'm talking about, I want to explain how you set this up in order for it to be ready to actually push through the table saw. To set it up, it's actually quite simple. So underneath here, you have this metal rounded portion on each one of these guides. The wheel itself actually extends down past that. So the way you set it up is whatever the thickness of the material is that you're cutting, that's what you're going to use to set it up. And all you do is you take the arm itself, so this rounded metal portion is touching. Once that's touching, you simply lock this locking lever here. You'll do it to the other arm as well. Lock it down, and now you're good to go. What that allows is, so now as I'm pushing this through, there's a little bit of resistance because I don't know if you noticed that, but it is spring loaded, right? So as I go ahead and push it, it's spring loaded. So it's always keeping tension down on the board. It's keeping it flat to the surface and it's keeping it tight against the fence itself. So as I start pushing this through, it's keeping it tight, keeping it tight. Then as it goes through the blade, it's catching again. And now there's constant pressure throughout the entire cut. After it comes through, it drops back down. You push it through, drops back down, and you're good to go. So there's a lot of things about this setup that are beneficial. It's keeping it flat on the surface. It's keeping it tight into the fence. And there's another great feature about it too, and that's that the wheels do not come backwards the other direction. So they lock in place. As you can see here, I'm trying to pull it back and I cannot. If you really muscle it, you can get it out from underneath it, but it's not actually going to allow the wheels to go the opposite direction. They only go one way, and that is the feeding direction, and the feeding direction only. Okay, so what I've done is I've actually moved these arms out a little bit. I've created an area that I want you guys to watch, and it's right here along my hands on the surface and the fence itself. Specifically, if you pay attention to this area right here, I've got a very major gap in between the fence. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this underneath this first wheel like that. Now, applying very slight pressure from behind, I'm going to push this board with my finger, not manipulating it in any way. And you'll see as I start pushing it, those wheels are guiding it back to the fence. Now, right there, I'm perfectly even with the fence. It's keeping it there, nice and tight. It's not moving away from the fence. I'm now coming up on my second wheel. It stays true all the way through the cut. Let's say that you drop down from your 3/4 inch plywood that I was just showing you the demonstration with, and now you're using 1/4 inch ply. It's too easy. The adjustment is simple as this. I'm gonna turn my knob, it's gonna fall down, I tighten it. Turn my knob, falls down, I tighten it. Now I'm ready to make my cut. Same thing applies. It's gonna keep it nice and tight against that fence all the way through the cut. Real quick, I want to talk about one of the most common questions I get, and that is, what if I need to make a very, very thin cut? So I'll tell you what you could do is you can bring this back in front of the blade, and basically you're putting this wheel up against the fence itself or very close to it. Then you have this far one. You want to make sure it's on the back side of the blade, and you're good to go. The only issue that I have with this is that as I'm pushing this through, in order for me to get underneath that wheel, I have to have something else pushing it from behind. I'll be honest with you, if I'm making really thin cuts, I will not use them. Reason being is because I will probably grab my gripper because I have the ability to cut very thin strips using this device. That's beneficial because I'm always able to keep constant pressure from the top and make sure it stays up against the fence. One final thing that I do want to leave you with, and something for you to consider. I said earlier that it's like having a third pair of hands at a table saw. And I truly mean that, because put yourself in the position of where maybe you're cutting a full sheet of plywood or just something extremely long, right? So the benefit to those guides is it really, really assists with getting that larger piece and ensuring it's staying against the fence as I push it through. Because I'm starting back here, there's nothing that I can do to really make sure that that stays tied up against the fence. And that is where that has really come in very beneficial when I'm making really long, large cuts and I need something that's going to help stabilize that long board. That's going to do it for me for this week. I really hope you found that information helpful. Again, the whole reason I did this video is because I cannot tell you how many questions I've gotten about it, how many people have asked me if I'm happy with it. Do I regret it? The answer is I'm 100% happy with it. I do not regret it for a second. One other thing I would like to point out, they also do make very similar ones for the router table, and I might save that for a future video. But again, the operation is very similar, and opposed to having arms that come off, they're just pieces that actually bolt to your router table fence. As always, everybody, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. I hope you found it beneficial. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. Or if you want to send me a DM on Instagram, you can find me there at Vince Woodworking. Send me a message there, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.